Hi, I'm Lizzie and welcome to my garden here at the Rose Press. I thought I would share some of the tools and things I have that I would recommend for new gardeners. So there's lots of things that I've just raided out of my garage that I thought would be really useful just to share with you, to show you what I use, and if you're completely new to gardening, some of the things that might be helpful for you. Now, I'm not saying you need all of these, but if you've got a birthday coming up or you're heading to the garden centre and you've got some vouchers from Christmas, these are some of the things I would invest my money on first of all. I'll start with pots. So you can buy pots in all different sizes. Now, I have to admit, I have never bought a plastic pot ever. I usually buy plants and they come in the pot and then I reuse those, and we know that plastic is a huge issue, so the more we can reuse first of all the better. So pots like this usually come with a perennial in that I bought at some point. I wash them out and then reuse them. So pots like this are really good for sowing sweet peas because they've got nice long areas of roots, or maybe sunflowers. You put one seed in here and then you don't need to keep potting it on. So something around this size would be good. And then you've also got these sorts of trays. Now, again, I've not bought these. These are where I bought pansies or violas as bedding plants, and they come in, as you can see, the little sections where you just pop out the plant, and these are really useful. Again, you can put one seed in each one, or I've just sown microgreens. You might have seen one of my videos on there because it's nice and shallow, so you don't need too much for the roots. I then also got a really big pot. I think I stole these, not stole, but borrowed them from my mum, and these are brilliant, a brilliant size when you are potting on and planting up, dahlias. So if you've got dahlia tubers, you want some nice big pots like this. So make sure you've got a range. But what I would say is, if you know someone in your family who's really into gardening, ask them for pots. They've probably got hundreds of them. Ask your neighbours, look on Facebook Marketplace. Please don't go out and spend loads of money on pots unless you know you're going to use them all of the time. One of the other things I talk about a lot is using things that you would have otherwise recycled or thrown away in your kitchen. So I think these had grapes in, but these are brilliant. They've already got the drainage holes in the bottom, and you can just fill this up with compost. They work in exactly the same way. So please don't go and spend loads of money on pots unless you want to have them all the same, or if not, just borrow, beg and steal from people. And also, people who've been gardening for ages will have loads, and they will absolutely love it if you go and ask them about what pots they have spare, because nearly every single gardener has too many. So yeah, either buy plants and reuse them, use stuff that you've got in your kitchen, even like milk bottles you can cut the top off, add some drainage holes, and that's the key thing. You need to have the drainage holes in the bottom, or you could go and buy them if you want to. The next thing I'm going to talk about is just handy things to have. So gardening gloves. You don't have to have gardening gloves, and you can tell I've used these quite a lot. You can get different ones. If you're taking down, like, you've moved into a house and there's loads and loads of brambles, you'll probably need some really thick ones to stop the thorns going through. But these ones, I think they're Town and Country ones. There's loads similar. What I really like about these is they're leathery, and they've got the Velcro strap as well. I find that if I'm putting compost and moving it around, sometimes it can slip down my gloves and it's really annoying. So I really like the Velcro around the top. So definitely recommend these ones, and they're really nice and thin, and you're able to kind of move your hands. I don't wear gloves that often when I'm gardening, only really when I'm picking up lots of muddy stuff, or if I am then going out later that evening, I don't want to have mud all in my nails. So definitely some gardening gloves. These, I think they're about £15, but I've used these for over a year now. Next one is a fork. So I use all of my gardening tools. I've kind of learned over time that it's better to spend slightly more and get a better quality one. So I've bought mine from Kenton Stowe. I think they're made in the UK, but they're a brilliant brand. They're in most garden centres, and rather than, you can buy plastic cheap ones, but they don't last as long, and you'll end up buying it twice and end up spending it more money. So I would just recommend a really good fork. Now, what this is really good for is if you're by your border and you're digging things, you want to plant something. You've seen trowels as well, but I tend to use forks because, especially in a new build garden, the ground can be quite rock solid, so you want to get in there and be able to dig, and then you can scrape it, move the soil away, and plant things in there. So I would say the number one thing I use is this tool, is this garden fork. I've also got secateurs. So these are Fiskars. There are loads and loads of secateurs brands. I don't have a favourite, these are just the ones I had nearest to me in the garage. And they are great when you're pruning things like roses. You want to make sure they're really nice and sharp, and you want to make sure you clean them in between each time, so you're not spreading any diseases or things like that around. But yeah, you need a pair of secateurs for stuff that's a little bit thicker. For some of the smaller stuff, I use deadheading snips, which are in some of my other videos, which I'm sure you've seen. They're not essential, but they're a really nice thing to have if you're deadheading a lot of things like sweet peas and cosmos. So yeah, get yourself a good pair of secateurs, but you can buy cheap ones. Next thing is string. I don't know what's happened to this one. I usually have it in a tin with the string hanging out. I don't know why it's not in the tin anymore. I think I was using quite a lot of it at the time, but just use natural twine that you can buy from any garden centre or online. You want to make sure that it's biodegradable, so that you don't have to worry about trying to find it after you've pulled stuff down. So it can just go into the compost or stay in the soil and it will biodegrade. So a nice good quality twine is a good one to have, especially for things like sweet peas or tying things in and when you're staking them. You will use so much of this, so definitely recommend getting some string. You can never have enough string. This is my kneeler, and it depends how much gardening you're going to be doing, but if you're going to get a kneeler, I would recommend this one from Berg & Ball. It's a really good brand, really good quality, and the foam is really good, and it just means you can put it down and your knees don't get absolutely soaking wet on a day like today. Or if you are planting out like 50 plants from seed and after the frost is gone, your knees absolutely get knackered by the end. So you want to have something that you can use that's nice and soft, and I really like the handle on it. This is definitely, I've tried lots of kneelers, definitely the best one that I would recommend. I've also got a bulb planter. Now this one you can tell I've been using it a lot recently, last month, but if you are planting lots and lots of autumn bulbs or spring bulbs in the autumn, it's a really good tool to have, especially if you're doing something like a wildflower meadow or you're planting loads of daffodil into the grass. You literally just push this in, twist it, it brings the grass out, you put the bulb in, and then you pop the grass back on top. If you're not planting that many bulbs, or if you've got a small garden, maybe one to add in your second round of Christmas lists. It's a nice thing to have, but not essential, but I just thought I'd share it if anyone is doing loads of bulb planting, I'd recommend. And then I've got a few other last bits and pieces. I have got these, which are lawn edgers. So these are from Berg & Ball, lots of good brands, but basically they just snip the edge of the borders where you've got grass and leave a really clean cut on them, which means that it just sets it off really nicely. It looks really neat. One of my favourite things to do, you just go around all the edges, make sure it's lovely and neat, and it's one of the things that new gardeners don't always realise is a thing. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it will make such a difference to the edges of your borders if you can snip them and make sure they're really lovely and straight. And if you go to like a professional garden or a stately home or a National Trust garden and you look around, they will definitely be using edging cutters to make it look really crisp. One of the other really good things I would recommend is a really good quality fork. Now you can get different sized forks. I've got a border fork, which is basically a slightly smaller, thinner one. I actually find it's a lot better to dig with because it's a bit lighter than the wide ones probably come out to about there. And I actually just find in my border, I've got quite a small garden, if I'm trying to dig something in or I want to dig something over, I don't want to have a massive and it be really back aching. So if you're like me, maybe similar size and maybe not as strong as some other people, I recommend a border fork. They're really handy and I find them much more easier to use. But I use this fork all the time, especially again if you've got a new build or a new garden and you're digging over borders and digging stuff in. Definitely need a good quality. Mine's Kensington Stowe. I think they're brilliant. A spade is another good thing to have on your list. I think if you've got something like an allotment where you're doing loads and loads of digging, a spade could be really good. I personally find a fork easier to dig ground with and to dig up, but again, I have got a spade that I do use occasionally, but the fork is my preferred one that I would buy. And then One of the things I've got, and you might have seen me use it in a few other videos, is this trug, and they come in loads of different colours, loads of bright colours that you can get from the garden centre, and they're really easy. They've got handles. They're brilliant for so many things. I've seen someone like Chicks and Veg, who I follow on Instagram. She plants all of her dahlias in them. She puts drainage holes in the bottom and has them in all different colours, and they look amazing. So you can use it as a planter if you want to have bright coloured stuff like that and you don't have space in the ground, or if you've got a balcony or something. This is a really good idea of something to use. But what I tend to use it for is when I'm weeding, so I'm using my fork and digging up any weeds that I see, I put them in here and collect them all in one place so that they're easier to take to either the compost or to the garden waste bin. I also, when I'm filling up trays and things like that, I fill it full of compost. Rather than having to stick my hand into the bags of compost, I put it into here, and it's just easier to get it out and into my trays. So yeah, definitely add a trug to your list of things. And then one of the things I just wanted to talk about, and there are so many different brands, and there's lots of vegan and organic brands as well, which I haven't tried personally, but one of the things I'd recommend you getting is either some tomato food and or some seaweed food. So you don't need this anytime soon, but when it comes to summer and you're growing things like sweet peas and stuff that's flowering, this just the seaweed enriches it. It says here for extra micronutrients, packed with essential nutrients for flower, leaf and root growth, ideal for plants, pots, containers, hanging baskets, beds and borders, indoor plants, or even the lawn. So you put a tiny little capful of this in with your watering can, and then feed your plants, and basically just make sure that they've got enough nutrients to grow and really thrive. And I didn't use this, I haven't used it when I was growing up. I don't think we use this a massive amount, but I used it this summer and it made such a difference to the amount of flowers and to the strength of the plants. So often that's in garden centres, well, you definitely find it in garden centres, but often it can be on a really good offer in places like the supermarkets and other places. There's obviously lots of places online that sell it as well, but definitely if you're going into a garden centre, that's definitely one to keep an eye out for, but you won't need it for quite a while yet. And then the last thing on my list, I'm just going to grab it, is a really good watering can. And mine is making quite a lot of noise because I left some water in and it froze because it's so frosty here at the moment here in January. But a really good watering can. I absolutely love this one. I just picked it because it looked good. Any watering can is absolutely fine, but just make sure you've got one so that you can make sure that you can water all of your plants. So I'll just put this down. But that hopefully gives you a bit of an idea, a bit of a ramble about all the things that I would recommend for new gardeners. So you've got pots, you've got tools, you've got gloves, you've got a kneeler, you've got string, you've got edges, you've got spades, and you've got trugs. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some tips. There's obviously lots of brands out there, just give it a go. But if you're heading to the garden centre, that's what I'd recommend. So yeah, enjoy.